War Rapport family, it's your boy Mike G here with my man Ike Jones. We got another special guest for you guys today. On the line, we got Jeris McIntyre, former Auburn wide receiver from 2000 to 2003, sixth round draft selection by the Kansas City Chiefs. Jeris, thank you for joining us today, man. What's going on?
Not too much, man. How y'all doing over there?
Not bad, not bad. Lots of things going on in and around the Auburn program. And as a former receiver, we wanted you to come on today and help us kind of educate our listeners on what it's like for a receiver playing in one system and then going to another system. You had an interesting career at Auburn. And in my opinion, probably one of the most underrated receivers we actually had. So one of my favorite Auburn moments as a camera guy was we were on the road at Vanderbilt, third game of the season, and we had not scored a touchdown yet 2 games into the year. And you actually scored our first touchdown of the season.
Yeah.
Tuberville gave a very rousing, speech going into that one because we were kind of stagnant offensively, and you caught the ball, bounced off like 3 defenders, and then broke it out to the end zone. One of my favorite Auburn moments ever. Can you talk about a little bit to us about what it was like being on that team? Because you played with some notable guys, man. Carlos Dansby, Dontaris Thomas, Carlos Rogers. What was your fondest memory playing at Auburn that senior season?
That moment that you said, I mean, it helped propel myself that season, becoming a leader, becoming a playmaker on that football team. And I just feel like that moment, it kind of helped us through the season. And just making plays. It was a great game. It was kind of going back and forth. We hadn't scored in 2 games, and I was like, man, some got to shake, some got to happen. And I was able to make a play. J. Camp threw a great ball, made a play, and that was probably one of my main memories at Auburn, scoring that touchdown, breaking that tackle. And we went on a roll after that for the most part. Lost another game here or there, but we kind of went on a roll. And I honestly feel like that season helped propel that 2014 to some big things, because we had a lot of juniors, like you said, Ronnie Brown Cadillac, Jason Campbell, Carlos Rogers. There were some juniors on that team that had an opportunity to go to the NFL, but they decided to come back and propel themselves to an undefeated year in 2004. But I think that 03 season with the ups and downs and the expectations that we had going in is maybe being able to win a national title and not scoring the first 2 games, an offensive touchdown, and then myself being able to make a play, break off a couple tackles, and score was really, really a fond memory that I have as an Auburn Tiger, especially in that season.
Well, I can't let you get out of here before I ask you about the 2003 Iron Bowl.
Yeah.
Now, you experienced something that not a lot of current Auburn players can say they experienced, in that you went into Bryant-Denny and beat Alabama on the road, right? So if I remember correctly, Ronnie and Cadillac got hurt going into that game. So we were down to our 3rd string running back, Trey Smith. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what it's like to go into Bryant-Denny and beat Alabama?
I mean, it was we were underdogs. Nobody really gave us a chance. Lack of Ronnie weren't playing. And we had to put in some different things throughout the week, some empty sets with Coach Petrino. Was an offensive coordinator then, if I'm not mistaken. And we just had to put in some empty sets, but I think we really, really played with heart that night or that day. Guys made plays, guys were unselfish, and it was really, really another fun moment in my Auburn career, just being able to go on the road. And I want to say that may have started our streak into winning, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever it was in a row with Coach Tuberville. But I think that season that you're saying started that off, and we had some good senior leadership from Javaris Robinson and guys like that, and Mark Brown, that we had a strong defense. J. Cam was a young quarterback, and that defense really, really helped us that season. But it's really a great memory. And like I said, nowadays, it's been a little tough when we've been in Bryant-Denny Stadium. But like I tell these guys that I'm coaching now, I want to hear all that Bama stuff. I mean, when I went, we played Bama, we beat them up, and we went to Bama, we beat them up. They came to us, we beat them up. And yeah, it's a little different now. But when I look at Bama and I think about my career, against Bama, it was for the most part victories at home and there. So hopefully we can get back to that. And we have beat them a little. We did. Gus beat them sometimes at home or whatnot, and he's beat them when they had Cam there. But I just feel like getting back to what we had and what we could do and what Auburn can do. I hope to see that sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me a little bit about you talked a little bit about like the game and how J Cam threw you a good ball and all that kind of stuff. I want to talk a little bit about like the chemistry that you have to build, specifically wide receiver and quarterback. Like what is it like to build that chemistry? You had a couple of different quarterbacks in your time, so like how did you develop the chemistry necessary, and how does that translate to how well you're able to produce that on the field?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is trust. It starts with practice, the timing, being able to know that quarterback is going to trust you, and I think a lot of times that comes with it, being able to have that quarterback to trust where that receiver is going to be. So a lot of that is just repetition at practice, that quarterback being comfortable with the receiver running the right route at the right depth, and being consistent in catching the football. So I think the biggest part of that is practice. Yeah. A lot of kids don't want to hear it and things like that. But in the off season, get with your quarterbacks. Receivers get your quarterbacks. Quarterbacks get with your receivers. Run your routes. Run your timing routes. Run your non-timing routes, your play action posts, your comebacks, your quick game, and the slants and the hitches and things like that, just so that you guys are all on the same page. And on Saturdays, it's second nature when it comes to you.
Wow.
And how much of that was directed by a coach, and how much of that was just you guys deciding, hey, we need to get out here and develop this? Like how much was you all just taking it?
I really think the great ones are the ones that end up doing it really, really well. They take it amongst themselves because there's only so much the coaches can do. You only have so many hours through the week. But when it's those hot summer days and you're tired of running them 110s and those 300-yard shuttles, but you stay after to run routes on air, do one-on-ones against receivers, I feel like it's more so within. And like with somebody like Jason, wasn't that rah guy, but he was going to be out there on the field throwing the ball, and we would stay out there, get the reps. So come Saturdays, our timing was there. We were able to make the play need be.
Wow, in line with that question, I want to ask you a little bit about how system plays into this. Right. So you played for 3 different coordinators, I think, in 3 years, 4 years. Petrino came in. You guys had a guy before that, and then there was the Knowles-Minger thing that we did in 2003, right? So you mentioned during the Iron Bowl that you guys put in some empty sets and did some things differently. And one of the things that fans have been really focused on is that former wide receivers are saying that the system that we have been running doesn't really prepare guys for the next level. Right. You get to the league and the route trees aren't really complicated. Can you talk a little bit about what it's going to be like for a kid going from something that's kind of hurry up, no huddle to something with more pro style concepts, and what the receiver's responsibilities are in a pro style system?
Yeah, I think that, and I saw some comments about that over the years with the Auburn receivers. And it kind of depends on which receiver you were. Looking at, like, say, Ricardo Lewis, because I know he came out with some of those comments back in the day. Right. I think he might have been that guy that they used just to go deep. But then you look at, say, a Duke Williams, or who else was in the system? Let's just say Duke Williams.
Sammy
Coates.
Or receivers right now, like a
Seth. Or receiver right now, like Seth. Depending on where you were, where you're lined up, will depend on what types of routes you're running. So if Ricardo Lewis or Darius Slayton were just running deep balls, they may feel like, hey, when it's time for me to run a comeback or a curl, I haven't really run that. So when I get to the next level, that may be something different for me. But I'm not really buying into that, because I think as a receiver at any level, you start running hitches, curls, comebacks, digs almost in middle school these days. You see what I'm saying? So to say, I won't be ready for the league. Well, if you want to play at the next level, in my opinion, if Coach Malzahn or whomever, whatever offense you're in, has you running that deep post, let's just say I'm going to take it amongst myself to learn how to run a curl or a comeback or a slant that we don't run a lot of. And then when it's time, then you'll know how to run that route. But on the flip side, I kind of do understand, because you may not be getting your game time reps running those routes that they run in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
and you think it may be hindering you. But I feel like if you get those extra reps on your own, then when it's time to run those at the combine or at a pro day, you'll be all right. And I want to just say, like, it's almost where you're playing in the offense, because I have seen, say, like Seth Williams run digs. I've seen him run a couple slants. I've seen him run the deep ball. But to me, it looked like with, say, Slayton, he was running post and goes. With Ricardo Lewis, he was running post and goes. So for those guys, it may have been a different, because they may have been the X or the 9 or whatnot in the offense, and they're not running the different routes, like, say, that Eli Stove ran or Schwartz had ran. So I think it comes, it's a little difference when you kind of looking at it from that perspective.
Well, you had one guy that particularly you coached on the high school level that I was really excited about, and his career at Auburn didn't pan out. You had Nate Craig Myers, and coming out of high school at one point as a junior, I think he was the #1 overall recruit at some point. I think he suffered an injury, and some of the recruiting services kind of downgraded him. But I was really excited to see him coming out of high school, because I felt like this guy has all the physical gifts and the speed and the hands, and it seemed like he was a little underutilized in the system that we were running at the time. As a high school coach, how much of the systems that you run in high school, how much does that weigh into how it translates at the college level, right? If you've got a guy and he's running a certain system in high school, do certain systems help prepare them better for the college level than others?
Yeah, I think so. It kind of depending, because if you say you have a kid who's in a run heavy offense and doesn't really run the route tree at all, similar to kind of what we just said with Auburn receivers or whatnot, then once you get to the next level and you get a guy in your face that's pressing, or they're asking you to run this route that you never ran in high school, it can be a little different. And I think that's why they have redshirt years and they give you 4 years of eligibility, just so you, and not because I'm not to say the academics, but just saying you get those years of eligibility to give you time to develop and kind of get an understanding of what they want you to do that you didn't do in high school. So I definitely think, and like we just said, from the college to the pros, it's the same thing. I think if you know where you're going and you know what they do, then you work on that so that when you get there, the learning curve is not as steep. But I've seen guys in the wing T offense in high school that were receivers and athletes go to college and they're lost because they've never really run a route. They've just been running go routes, and they're bigger and more athletic than most of the guys that are playing. So that comes into effect a lot of times for high school kids.
Yeah, and I think that dovetails, right? Mike was just kind of queuing it up about development, right? Like how important is it for those guys, or what's kind of the process of getting that developmental work on, making sure you got your your steps right? Like, figuring out how to get your breaks off the line, or figuring out how to come out of your break at the top of a route. Like, how did you, make that transition to figuring that out when it came from going from high school to college and then from college to the pros? Because it's going to be different at every level, because the athletes are better, right? And you're going to have to figure out different ways to stem that route or whatever it is. What are the processes for getting that development done personally? And then how much does the program factor into developing that guy?
Yeah, well, me personally, when I was in school, we had a great coach in Greg Knox, who's now the running back coach at Florida. So he's been in the SEC, 25, 30 years almost. So he was a really, really good coach when it came to details, attention to detail, depth, getting off the ball, releases, getting vertical off of your release, playing physical. And if you can ask any of the guys that I played with, they will probably all say the same thing, that he was a really, really good coach, to where you weren't going to be soft. You were going to be on time. You were going to know what you're doing. You're going to understand the concepts of what we're trying to do. So for me personally, I feel like I was fast, I was big, but he just helped me with all the small things that you needed to develop as a receiver. So I think a lot of it is, you have a skill set when you come in, but being coached to with the particulars to be able for that to translate on Saturdays.
So let me just kind of ask a follow-up about that. So like running the routes is one thing, but like a whole other portion of that, which I think happens a lot in the Gus Malzahn system specifically, is figuring out how to be a good blocker at the wide receiver position. So I just wonder, like, you've been watching Auburn football, like where do you feel like those guys need to be able to develop better skills with that sort of thing, being able like is that for me, I've always thought blocking is really just kind of like a mentality thing, like you want to do it or you don't.
Yeah, it's definitely a mentality. And to be honest, like we ran the ball so much, you ain't had no choice. I mean, we used to call ourselves extra linemen. We'd be out there and be like, Coach, give us number 78, 79. We ain't throwing, So really, I think it is a mindset. But coming in, I didn't really, myself, Devin, Mix, Ben, Courtney Taylor, we were, tough guys, but we didn't have that mindset. And I think Coach Knox made it a point that you weren't going to play if you didn't get that mindset.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that came, like I said, from Coach Knox. Okay, look, fellas, it is what it is. We're going to run the ball. You're going to get your opportunity to make a play, but when we're running the ball, you better be physical. You're not playing. There wasn't no transfer portal. You couldn't call your mom and daddy and all that crap. You was going to block, and if you didn't block, you weren't going to play.
Right.
And I think that's what really helped our running backs. I mean, we had a lot of great legendary running backs, but I feel like with the offensive line, the fullbacks, and the mentality that we had on the outside, that it was going to make them that much better because we were blocking our butts off.
One of my other favorite moments from that season was Cadillac breaking out for like an 80-yard touchdown. And you'll probably remember this. And Jeris McIntyre running right beside him all the way to the end zone. Now, Lack won't admit it, but you were faster than him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what you mean? I got the clip. I got the clip still, So I don't want to. Yeah. He know that too. So if he come on here, I can replay it and I'll text him right now and tell him. Hopefully Harsin keeps him on because we do need him.
I agree.
We need to keep Lack. Hopefully they keep him on. But I text him early. I'll text him again. So if he's gonna get on this show, y'all ask him that same question.
Sure. I will. Because you definitely outran him down the field on that touchdown. Yeah, he had the train in front of him.
Yeah.
A lot of what I hear you saying is that while there is some responsibility on the receiver, whoever we hire a wide receiver coach is going to be super important because you've reiterated that you guys had a coach in Coach Knox who instilled a mindset, right? And you weren't going to be soft, right? And this is what you had to do to get on the field. And the names that you named. Now, I've said that I thought you were one of the more underrated receivers we had, but let me tell you, that was collectively one of the best wide receiver corps we've ever had at Auburn.
Y'all were some beasts out there, man.
Oh my goodness!
I think that whole crew was underrated.
And I feel me too. And I feel like it comes to, and not to rehash as we always talk about, we ain't throw that much, but at the end of the day, we cherish the moments that we had. But we know if we were in an offense, in today's offense, myself, I got drafted, Courtney Taylor got drafted, Devin Aromashu got drafted, Ben Obamanu got drafted, and Anthony Mix was a free agent,
right?
Who was able to hang around a little bit in the league, as well as Silas Daniels.
Silas.
So, So I mean, with all us, and I think Coach had that luxury of Jeris, you're the senior. You're going to show these young boys what I've been telling you the last 2-3 years, from Ronnie Daniels and Tim Carter and those other Clifton Robinson and those guys. But, I mean, if I didn't block, I was going to the bench. If Mix didn't block, if Ben didn't block, if Devin didn't block, you were going to the bench. And there was no ifs, ands, and buts. It just is what it is. So I just feel like having that depth and having everybody, buy into that mindset, it made us really, really good. And now we wish we would have caught, more passes. And I figured, that's why we're underrated because we made the plays when we could. But, I mean, skies would have been the limit if we touched it even more.
Right.
At the end of the day, man, we won a lot of games. We're still super close to this day. And we'll laugh about it here and there, how we had to block and Coach had us trying to chop block and all kind of crap. So it was pretty interesting, but it was fun. It was fun, and we cherish all the moments.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us today for a chat. There's a lot of buzz around the program right now because we're bringing in a new system. We've had one coach for 8 years, and now a lot of us as fans are expecting to see something completely different. And wide receiver is one of those positions that, we've had some good receivers come through, but the production has been underwhelming. Right. So, hiring the right coach, instilling the right mindset, and then the players taking it upon themselves to develop the chemistry that you talked about is how we're going to see a better product on the field on Saturdays. But you are a developer of young minds now and young players. Can you tell us a little bit about being head coach at Tampa Catholic? I know that's your alma mater, right? That's where you went to high school.
Yeah, that's my alma mater, man. I'm enjoying it up until this point. Got some really good players, some good kids that are, with the right mindset. I'm trying to instill that mindset in them, the same way that I had with Coach Knox and other coaches that I played for. So it's been interesting. It's been fun. It's been, hard at times, just learning on the fly, but I got a good staff around me and some guys who got some potential. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm just trying to help them continue to develop and be great young men. And maybe, send a couple more up to Auburn. Hopefully,
I was gonna say, hopefully, you got them in the pipeline because we.
You already know. I got one with an Auburn offer now. I mean, I got a couple other Auburn potential guys, but I let them pick and choose what they want to do and what's best for them. Yeah. I've had a lot of guys sign these last 3 years, so I let them do what they do. But I'm always looking at that orange and blue, man, trying to get us back right.
For sure.
Let me ask you one more question before we get out of here, just on that same tip about recruiting. Like, does the news of Bryan Harsin being the new coach there, what does that do for a recruit's mind? Like, if if Jeris McIntyre is coming out of high school right now and he hears Auburn just hired Coach Harsin, like what would that do for you as a wide receiver thinking about the potential in this system?
To be honest, I ain't never heard of Harsin. So
listen,
join the club. Join the club.
I'd have been like, hold up now. I would have went straight to YouTube,
which all of us did.
Straight to Google.
Yeah.
How many your leading receiver, how many catches did he have last year? Your second receiver, what did he have?
Which he had a couple 1,000-yard receivers in his system.
Yeah, so if I see that and knowing that, he's from what I hear, great hard-nosed coach, won a lot of games at Boise, then I'm look and say, okay, well, let's sit down and talk and then kind of get a feel for who you're going to have as your receiver coach. What are your plans for me and things of that nature? So I think it may, take them a little bit of time to kind of, for the kids to kind of get a feel for it. But I know, we should be in good hands because he's been successful at Boise. And I think that, he'll be able to bring it to the South, getting the right guys in there in the building to help him out. But from what I see and what I know of him being an offensive guy, as a receiver, I would be happy to be able to sit down and talk and get a feel for, okay, how we going to do. And from what I've seen, from what I looked up, I mean, he looks like he's going to be legitimate. They're going to throw it around and run it as well. So we'll have a really good balanced offense.
I got one more question before we get out of here because it has been a thing with our commenters. And I just want, you're a guy who's played in a lot of different systems and you coach it and you've done it at the next level, Jeris. Upon film study, it was apparent to us that he runs a lot of pro style concepts. A lot of our listeners have come in and said he runs a multiple offense. It's a multiple offense. And I'm not going to lie. At first I was like, what is that? And then it looks like it's just a bunch of different sets. It's can you explain the multiple offense to us?
It's funny you say that because when people ask me what kind of offense do you run, I say I run a 4-receiver set. I could be with a tight end and a fullback. I could be with 2 tight ends and a running back.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I could be with 5 receivers. So from what I've seen with him, he has multiple sets. So I don't know if that's pro style because at the end of the day, what is pro style? Is pro style a tight end with 2 backs and 2 receivers? Because when I watch the Chiefs, sometimes they have 5 receivers and Mahomes is rolling right, throwing it behind his back to the left. So is that pro style now? Is that college style? So I feel like our new head coach is a multiple set kind of guy with different formations, with some pro style concepts.
Right.
So he has pro style concepts, but I don't think it's pro style because he'll still throw in, some read option.
Right.
He'll still throw in some other stuff that a lot of colleges still do. But at the same time, he'll line up under the center with the fullback and a tailback and hand it to the tailback like they were doing with Bo Jackson back in the 80s.
I formation type stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So
how I was explaining it is just the difference between a pro set, which is, a personnel package, versus the concepts that they're going to be running for route trees and what the quarterback's being asked to do pre-snap, at the line of scrimmage, and then post-snap reading coverages. That's pro style versus a pro set.
Yes. I know, and that's when you break it down like that, it's kind of like, it's almost like an open-ended question, because you could say, yeah, he's a pro style, but then you look at some of the concepts and you're like, well, that's not pro style. Right. But then you go back and look and be like, okay, well, this play was a pro style set. The quarterback is reading, seeing if it's cover 4, cover 2. They're making adjustments off the coverage. You're not looking to the sideline for a play and looking back. So like that is pro style. So from what I've seen, he is doing some pro style stuff. But he still has some college football concepts. But he is doing some pro style stuff. So I don't know which one is which. He's just a multiple set, in my opinion, a multiple set kind of guy, which I think those are the best offenses, because you don't know if you're going to get spread, or you don't know if you're going to get 21 personnel. We're going to be running power right down your throat. So it should be fun, man. I'm excited to see. Gus did some great things for us over the years, but, got a new guy in, so I'm excited to see what he can do.
Well, Jeris, thank you for coming on to spend some time with us. We really appreciate you taking the time to kind of help us educate our listeners. We are the War Rapport on YouTube. Please click like and subscribe. We're going to be bringing you guys more interviews like this from former players to help us, break down and analyze, what we're going to be seeing on the field next year. The War Rapport on Twitter and Instagram. TW Rapport on TikTok. Gentlemen, as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle. Thank y'all.